I um sorry, I'm still on my way to the office. I was like 2 minutes away. I'll, I'll be dropping off and reconnected again once I arrive at the office. Um, so ha
Yeah,
have you guys
and
have a chance to see the Broadcom's scale up level Ethernet SUE spec yet?
Yeah, I reviewed it.
yeah, I think yeah, Bobby,
Oh, great.
let's fine to give you a chance to get to the office. Yeah, so we wanted to go through Sue and just collect, I guess, collect people's thoughts, right? The spec's been released, very positive, but I think what we were planning, Bob, was just kind of a free-form discussion on people's thoughts. So,
Yeah.
yeah, go, anyone, I mean, just chime in if you wanna just provide, your thoughts on scale up Ethernet.
So Ron, I mean, I looked at it. The good news is, from an optical link perspective, there really shouldn't be a difference for UA link versus SU. You know, the phi is the same, and so whatever we design optically should work for both. I think SU only goes part way up the stack. So there's, and it provides a lot of the common things that are in UA link, it seems like, features, it has those features. But I think it also is more aligned with UEC as well. So it can be used with both. At least that's the way I look at it. It looks like the lower layers of UA link um, with options to use it differently. That would be my assumption.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely, I noticed that as well. It's a, common sort of physical optical interface. It provides for the aggregation aspect of, 1-800 gig, 2400, 4200, as your single hop. Um, and they have some interesting topologies, but I think the essentially the protocol um, defined here, allows for the scale up. Like you said, maybe not as far up the stack as you'd like to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a chance to review it in and feels like Jeff said, it's almost everything it's on the optical link level, it's almost exactly the same. And but it has a little bit more information about the network connect. You know, for example, um, they're talking about the fact that it's going to follow the IEEE. Uh, I think it was. Okay, let me look at it. Yeah, it's RS 272 or RS 544. And with the trade-off of latency, I'm wondering if is there anyone familiar with these different fact um, how would they trade off for the latency? You know, would that be part of the you know, is there anything that's gonna affect the optical part?
Well, the 544, that's the KP4 effect that's used in UA link as well.
Mhm.
you know, and the 272 is just a lower latency option. You'll also notice that in SUE, they also have the CRCs. I believe, if I read it right, they have a 32-bit CRC like UA-Link. So I mean, when I look at it, that part is all the same. They have an option for the smaller FEC, right? And they have some options that definitely are more conducive to Ultra Ethernet.
So that's quite interesting. And does anyone know the the latency budget that they put it on the at the end of the uh, end of the calculate the spec, and it looks like there's plenty of time for the um, for the end-to-end latency, because the spec was something like lesser than 2 microseconds, and in these calculation is almost like only half of the microseconds. Uh, so so in in this scale up network, sometimes I feel like the latency seems not a real constraint at all. But in terms of scale up network, the latency seems a very important part. But it feels like people when they do the calculation, it feels like it's not important at all.
Yeah, I think as for my reading of the latency budget on the there that you're showing, that's pretty much the same as UA-Link, from what I can tell. The 2 microseconds, I think, has to do when you're running it more in a with not credit-based flow, then you've got a lot of tail latency things that happen. So that's where I believe the 2 microseconds comes in.
Oh,
I think that's the right. So the point is, if you run it like an Ethernet network, then you just blast out things and you have to store things at the other end. And then if there's a problem, you ask for retransmission. In the credit-based flow, right, you don't transmit the next thing until you know the other thing has it and received it correctly. And so, you know, it's a little different. So you can have, because of the storage and everything, you have more latency with the Ethernet scheme, you know. So you can run this SUE thing either way. You know, like you can do it more of an Ethernet scheme, or you can use it the credit-based flow to get lower latency. But I think this diagram here shows pretty much the same as UA-Link, from what I can tell.
yeah.
UA-Link did not really specify optical, right? Is this the first scale up spec actually called out the fiber spec?
I feel like it because so far we only have two scale up spec led release, right? One is the UA-Link, the other one is this SUE. So the interesting point from OCP perspective is when we had a conversation with Cliff, and he mentioned that Broadcom donate the whole SUE to OCP. So it's completely open now. UA-Link is not donating, but they work really closely with OCP. So it's both of them. They're pretty open to the OCP, and that's why it's probably good for us when we mention it at our white paper. We just mentioned it as a scale up network, so we can cover the both. And as Jeff pointed out, from the optical point of view, these two pretty much similar for optics. So I think it's actually better for us, right? We can we can we can we can have a broader markets or broader spec coverage for two.
Yeah, Bobby, I thought Cliff mentioned that Broadcom was donating this to OCP.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. The SUE, the scale up network Ethernet is donated to OCP. But the UA link we're work like really closely to UA link.
Yeah, yeah.
Other than to supply these, I don't know if these are goals or not. These numbers, are they providing any more detail, or these are just objectives?
Dave, do you meaning the latency number or
Yes. Yes.
I I think this is probably a guess or something, especially the latency for the TX plus RX. It's probably based on what Broadcom's been developed, right? I don't exactly know. Probably you have a better insight than me.
Okay. I probably do. I just haven't looked yet. Sorry. Thank you.
I think they do
They-
have a typo here, right? On the fiber latency, the second line should be because they are listing both the single mode and hollow core.
Oh yeah.
On the 10 meter, look like they just duplicated two lines. I think second line should be hollow core.
Latency single mode core. Oh, here you're saying this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good catch. To let them know. It's hollow core, I think. Yeah, that's why the speed is much faster. The latency is much faster. I'm wondering like why they only pointing out the single mode fiber. I mean, isn't the multiple fiber? It's almost the same, right? And it's probably for 200G right now. It's only the silicon photonics or EML is able to achieve that. So that's why it's only pointed out as single mode. But for some of them, I think if they're under like 100G, feels like VCSELs can also cover it.
Yeah, I know their company is promoting a VCSEL 200G solution. I mean, a complete solution with both optics and electronics, but it's a big company. Not everyone talks to each other.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, right.
I'll point this out to some of my friends in the electro-optics side, and maybe they'll talk to the SUE people.
Mm-hmm. Great. So in terms for the getting the UA-Link and UA-Link people to engage with this, we're sending out email already. Reach out to Cliff, help us to forward to Curtis. I also reach out to their marketing teams, but so far I haven't had any bounce back yet, so I'll continue chasing it. But we got the John Dombrosar from Huawei's and Future Ways, and also the IEEE AO2.3 chair. He will join us at June 5th to to give a talk about the 400G.
Yeah, so Bobby, just keep in mind that, what John is focused on is Ethernet solutions.
Mhm.
And, and it's mostly about scale out, not scale up. That's kind of where he's focused. That's, because he's chair of the Ethernet.
Yes.
I would say that, my view is that from the work
Mhm.
that our group would do, I
Mhm.
think our job has gotten simpler because, the scale up things we're looking at all use the Ethernet PHY and they
Right.
all use the same FAC. And
Mhm.
so and therefore we know the traffic patterns and all that kind of stuff, sufficiently design and specify an optical link. So from my point of view, our life has gotten a lot easier in terms of being able to move forward.
Agree. Yeah, it's a very good point. And I think um, so I think by next week I'll be able to come out with a list of probably a brief structures for the paper, and we can talk about more next week about the detailed task that we would like to come out with.
Yeah, and just to prefetch next week, so we're gonna be, needing volunteers to help like with the white paper. So think about your area of expertise and where you might want to add value. And I would agree that our job got simpler. You know, some of the UA Link and Broadcom here with Sue have done a lot of the heavy lifting. I think what we want to do is then just focus on the optics and say, okay, this is how these systems would be enabled. So, but yeah, next week we're going to be requesting some volunteers.
Yeah. All right. So thank you everyone for joining today. I'm
Hey,
don't
I
have
had
any.
one I
Yeah.
had one follow-on question. I don't know if anyone's done any research here on this, but with respect to Sue, are any of the Broadcom switches have have this working and have they done any demonstrations on this? Obviously it's a spec, but I would assume that they've got some um, you know, traffic or some proof of concept working. Does
So let
anybody know?
me, yeah, let me try to answer this in a safe way. Um, they are highly confident for good reasons.
Okay.
I think that's all I can say. I actually don't know what exactly the whole NDA situation is with this. I've only been peripheral. I've been a couple meetings, but I don't know yet how they're positioning things. But that's certainly my understanding.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's not advertised in any of their switches,
Oh
I
no,
think.
I don't believe it's in
Yeah.
any. I don't believe it's in any release switch.
Okay.
That is, I'm actually positive of that.
Yeah, but obviously they're going to release a spec, where you're sending command packets through Ethernet PDUs. You would assume that they've got something working in the lab, either FPGA base or maybe it's even um,
Yes,
silicon based.
yes, I assume that also,
Yeah.
and I have reason to believe that that's a good assumption.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe at an upcoming show we'll maybe even see a demo. Where would I just thinking out loud, where would they likely demonstrate this?
Well, isn't this part of OCP? So
Yeah, so maybe this
that would be
coming
OCP Global Summit or
at
something
Global
in
Summit.
October.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Cliff mention anything about that?
He
Bobby?
didn't. I don't recall.
Okay, so maybe that's a question for next time. We can see if they're yeah, I would logically think they'd have something at Global Summit. Yeah. In San
Probably.
Jose.
So
Yeah.
this is James, guys. They'll definitely be a global summit. I think that there's probably stuff between then and now. I would stay tuned as well for the Broadcom webinar that's coming up with OCP, with Micus Networks. That's on June 10th. It's not too far away.
All right, awesome. Hey, thanks, James.
Of course.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining today, and we'll see you next week. Bye.